Hey guys, Dark Humility here with yet another Season 7 Project Diablo 2 closed beta, mini guide, and demo. This is updated Fend later on in the closed beta after increasing damage in addition to the increased AoE. She is quite a monster, as you can see, dealing 32,000 damage. Upwards with a Zeal-like attack when she jumps into the middle of the monsters. Using Battle Cry on an Act 5 Mercenary, plus of course having Fanaticism will allow us to get to those maximum attack speed breakpoints, in addition to having Might and using the new item Zerae's Resolve, which gives us 2 to Joust, which is key for repositioning your Mercenary on top of you. If you use Enigma, teleport frames on an Amazon are abysmal. So you want to keep that in mind. There's other ways to reposition, but it's very, very slow and ineffective. Also, Joust attacks and does a lot of damage with the initial strike. It makes this build a lot more effective. So let's talk about exactly how this build works. So in general, you're going to want enough strength to wear your gear, enough dex to wear your gear. Maybe you can put more in for attack speed, attack rating, or damage. You can do it either way. Vitality. I'm gonna just put the rest into vitality. Skills are pretty straightforward. Fend, Javelin, Spear Mastery, and Jab. Of course, you're also going to want dodge, evade. You can put more points into those. I recommend on a melee build like this getting like upwards of like 30+%, and then it starts hitting some pretty serious diminishing returns. You can put more points into Valkyrie, but make sure you have at least 1 point. Penetrate's really good. Getting that attack rating up is really good for this particular build. Pierce doesn't do anything on a non-missile build, and then getting your crit strike up as well is going to give you as much damage as possible. Remember, 75% chance is the cap for any deadly strike or crit chance, so that on top of maybe a little bit of extra deadly strike here will pretty much get you pretty close to capped percentage, and that's one of the reasons why you're going to want to actually get an Atmosphere for proccing the amplify damage as well. Mercenary though, Act 5, you get Battle Cry. He's a Whirlwind Barbarian. He's also going to give you a bit of extra bow as well, which theoretically can also allow you to use something that's not Call to Arms, but Call to Arms is still good for that Battle Command DR damage bonus as well though. Of course, you have the Might on him as well. Whirlwind doesn't come with Might, so you have Might, Fanaticism, and then a bunch of defensive stats on the Mercenary. Remember, a one-handed weapon will do double damage on a Barb Merc for double damage as well. Yeah, and so if you want to make this build a bit tankier on hardcore, of course, you can go more Valkyries, you can go more DR, you can go more reduced curse duration. You can even go curse resistance and use Templars on yourself if you really wanted to. Definitely a lot of cool things to do. And then, of course, you can use a Zontorch and Annie. Max damage and res, max damage, and Javelin and Spear Skillers are also very good because they scale a lot better now. This Projector gives you the Heart of the Wolverine, cannot be frozen, attack rating, damage reduction, negative Fizz res. Once again, this weapon just does a ton of damage and it has Joust. Also gives you a little bit of extra lightning damage, even providing some MDR and lightning resistance, so contributing a bit to your tankiness as well, interestingly enough. And then, of course, the Amplify damage for another huge boost of negative enemy Fizz res, just like Battle Cry on the Mercenary. And more ED, more ED, more ED. If you want, you can also go Tyrael's Might to increase your attack speed that way as well, in case you don't want to put attack speed elsewhere. Putting attack speed jewels like an Tyrael's Might like this one, very good example there, would actually work just fine. And yeah, really good stuff in general. I'm actually going to increase my res a bit because I noticed that our res is actually having some problems, so I'm actually going to increase it a bit here. Yeah, we'll just use res. Yeah, you know, 70 res is a bit better as well. Okay, and here we go. We're gonna go take this as well. And let's go show you guys basic cow killing. I'll show you guys some basic killing on this build. Hopefully you guys are inspired to play this new awesome build in Season 7. I think with the last buff now, it's not just like B tier-ish. I actually think it's maybe moving up into the A tier. Let me know what you guys think though at the end of the video in the comments below. And establish whatever you think is correct there. I think this build now is actually somewhat comparable to a Zeal. Really need a lot of damage to make that the case. Jump in with Joust though. I don't know if that is worse than Frenzy, honestly. I think it's better than Frenzy, maybe. Well, we're about the same at the very least. I don't know, Joust is nice. Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, this is really nice indeed. Fend used to be trash last season, so for the background on this skill. I think it was rated as D tier by myself for mapping. Pretty much rated D tier all the way around. Not a very good skill. You would use jab for bosses as well as mapping, so this season though, looking to be pretty solid. Alright, so this is just a standard map right now, and as you can see, very, very strong. Like one-shotting those champions. Fearlessly just jump into the monsters. I'm not even using a Valkyrie, but you can. For additional tankage. As you can see though, sometimes it dies often, and that's... seems to be normal, par for the course. You can definitely put more points into Valkyrie to get more of them though, or to make them tankier. What I'm here assuming is like max power for softcore here though. Oh yeah. Well, I mean there's witches, there's cows. The witches I think are actually killing them. A lot of people still don't do witch maps even though they're not nearly as bad as they used to be. But yeah. You can also use jab still for single targets. However, keep in mind that unless you have like really fast weapons and whatnot, your jab's not really going to do all that much damage. See, Joust does damage upon arriving, which usually puts the monsters in a hit recovery, so it actually makes your jumping in with jab very safe. Finally putting that new Act 5 PD2 unique to use. Brand new unique Kappa. Alright, here we go. Might actually be worth something now. If you find it. Yeah, it's possible. It's possible. Alright, let's go test her and show her off in some other areas. As you can see, jab still being maxed out makes her single target capability insane on this character. Gonna drop bosses like nothing. Jab's always been good at boss killing though, so that's not a surprise. Alright. So next up, we can definitely show her off in another pretty good map here. This map is known to be pretty dangerous though. I finally can say though that Fend is looking pretty good. Which is pretty cool. Poor Valkyrie, she can't do anything. Okay, here we go. Yeah, Mercenary, you know, you could use like concentration aura, but you really need attack speed typically on this build to make this really slow matriarchal pike work, because it's a pretty slow weapon. That's why I think fanaticism is definitely the way to go. Honestly, this is pretty convincing. It's got a lot of power. The leech, as long as her life leech is pretty high, not really going to encounter death on this character. It's pretty darn strong. Yeah, you can check the Uber tier list. I'm actually thinking of separating the tier lists on the Uber tier list this season into Uber Tristram, Rathma, and D-Clone, so that you know which builds are the strongest. I'm gonna do some research, actually, to try to give you guys that information. That's gonna require some YouTube research. Why? Because you can't test it on the beta anymore, so you can do some research. I'll, oh, wow. Well, see, if you stop leeching at any point in time, that might happen. There you go. I think that was Fizzimune, and we didn't have the other one on there. Well, there you go. Can definitely happen for sure. Big corpse. You know, most of the time you feel very safe, even on a two-handed version of this build, but
at your service.
That can definitely happen. We were cursed. They were very strong enemies. Alright, and so what I'm going to do next is going to show you guys fortified maps, because I feel like this character in a lot of ways is kind of made for fortified maps. Kind of like Zeal. It's a Zeal type build. Zeal is just perfect. It kind of like hits all the monsters in an elite pack, and if you just target elite packs and not worry about the rest of the monsters, it tends to be more effective here. After, because it died. Well, dying is a part of Diablo 2, unless you're a hardcore player, and then it's still a part of Diablo 2, but like I said, there's definitely a lot of ways to make this build even tankier, so I'm gonna have to invest in that. There we go. Looks like we're crushing the fortified monsters pretty well here. By the way, after this chat, we'll be retesting Lightning Strike. I believe it got a nerf, which is interesting. It's a little odd, but true. I think we're gonna have to retest that one. And then we'll be retesting Paladin builds. And then we'll be moving on to the Druid today, so that's kind of the order of operations. Druid hasn't had builds tested, but we'll be testing Rabies first, because Rabies actually incurred a nerf! Can you believe it? And actually a direct nerf to Rabies. Looks like it is going through, so I guess they don't want this season to be a repeat of last one, at least not directly. It's such a cheap and powerful build readily available. Yeah, it looks like it's all synergies going down from 17% to 14%. Where do you see the nerfs in the beta? There is a special beta section in the Discord, the PD2 Discord. Everything is always in the Discord. I know not everyone uses Discord, but if you guys are ever asking where X is in the beta, it's always in the Discord, and if you have beta access, you should have that. If you don't, you need to send in a ticket and ask for beta access. So as you can see, this build is crushing fortified maps. And remember, the thing about fortified maps is you get double loot. Look how much health these monsters have. They have so much health, you do so much damage. And with just Battle Cry or Amp on top of it sometimes, it's just overwhelming. So this skill does an insane amount of damage. It just hits really hard. Look at that, we get an Amp and even fortified bosses. This is a fortified Mad Philosopher. Look at him dropping double loot there. Look how fast he dropped there. Boom. So yeah, this character is gonna crush fortified maps, and I think that's honestly gonna be her forte. You know, we tested her in a non-fortified throne there. Getting overwhelmed by lots of monsters is kind of one of her problems sometimes, one of her weaknesses, and well, there aren't enough monsters to overwhelm you in a fortified map. Combination of Battle Cry and Amp from the Mercenary, gonna crush that as well. So you're gonna take that one on and you'll be good to go. Anyway, GG. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this Fend Amazon demo. I definitely think it's earned its place in the A tier finally. I wouldn't consider it an S tier build still, but as fast as it's crushing fortified maps and whatnot, it's pretty solid. I still think maybe Zeal has a bit of an advantage, mostly because Zeal has more movement speed. You know, there's charge. If you get movement speed on this, you would have to use an Act 1 Mercenary, and then you'd have to sacrifice the Battle Cry, and the Act 1 Mercenary dies a lot easier when you jump into the middle of monsters. So I still don't think it's necessarily like top of the A tier, but we're definitely talking about a pretty green build here. It's looking like to be a pretty solid mapper, and you can definitely make sure to see Zerae's resolve on the battlefield for Sanctuary survival. Anyway, guys, GG. See you guys in the next installment.